Hi, my name is Margaret Wong, and I'm a private practice immigration lawyer. And today's topic is alternatives to H-1B visa. The first question I have here is what kind of jobs are exempt from H-1B? It's a history. Years and years ago, H-1B, we have no job title, job description, job salary, location. But I shouldn't say no because it's very general, as long as it's a professional job. Nowadays, there's certain jobs that, even though it's a specialty occupation, you probably won't get the H-1B approved, even though you get in the quota, the 85,000 and then 20,000. One of them is like a famous chef. I would say years ago, chefs, you could probably do a H-1B if it's famous. Nowadays, even the H-1B, a famous chef, you would not get an H-1B. It's probably an O visa. Years ago, a musician, you could do an H-1B, now no more. So for example, I have a bachelor's in music education. I could teach music and I would get an H-1B. But if I perform, and if my degree is in music education, unless you're a great performer, you can do O1, but a performer can no longer do an H1. So it's becoming more strange. Things like marketing analysts, business analysts, financial analysts is very difficult, even though you have an MBA. So the question then is become what job you're certain to become H-1B? Nothing is certain anymore, unless you're an AIDS researcher, a doctor, a lawyer, people that require licenses, an engineer to have a license, or engineer. Engineers normally are H1, but they may RFVU. My question now is, can you explain programs that's specific to countries, for example, Canada, Mexico? Canadians, there are two contiguous countries in America, in the whole America. North America is Canada and America. The South Americans are Mexico, that's two contiguous, that's three countries together. And then below that, you have the Central America, which is that three country, the Honduras, the El Salvadorians, the Guatemalans, of course, then you later on you become the Venezuelans, the Colombians, and the Brazilians, and so it all goes down. So the special programs and visas for Canadians and Mexicans, which is a free trade, and also the E-visa, E1 and E2 and E3. E1 is a international substantial trade visa. E2 is a investment visa. And of course, you always have H-1B for Mexicans and Canadians, but why bother when you also have the TN? TN is a temporary visa each period for 3 years. But for other countries like Chileans, you have the H-1A, Singaporeans have H-1A, and that's away from the 65,000 cap. Otherwise, you couldn't get in. And then you also have another country, and I forgot what it is. But if I remember, I'll come back. That also have that E3, Australia. They have the E3 that's not into the cap. So these are all, there was a time like Lebanon, you have DED, you have Liberia, that have DED and now it's gone. You also have now Syria, you have TPS. So a lot of El Salvador TPS, Honduras TPS after the hurricane. So different programs, countries have different programs. And America, historically, before 1965, you used preferences like the Western Hemisphere, the Eastern Hemisphere, and then we became preferences, and now we become quota. So really, it's really a lot of fun what immigration lawyers does. Can you explain the O1 extraordinary visa? O1 is a very, very special visa. It really started in 1997, became really hot by 2000. O1 means it's extraordinary. That's an O, all right? H-1B is a professional specialty occupation visa. Like a nurse cannot do H-1B, but a famous nurse or a, sort of a special nurse could do O visa. You can do O visa on a chef, on scientists, a lawyer, doctor, as long as they have a lot of honors, awards, prizes, international renown. And the standard for O visa is about 10% lower than an EB-11. So what is the EB-11? So it's parallel track. You have the non-immigrant visa on the O1 category. For example, I'm a journalist, but I'm not an international journalist because international journalists can do an I visa. But if I'm a famous journalist or sort of a noted, renowned journalist, I can do an O1. But if I'm really famous and honors award prizes, travel grants and stuff, I can do an EB11 green card. EB11 green card is a little bit more difficult, actually a lot more difficult than an O1. But O1 standard is very good. I would say a top 5-6% of people qualify for O1 in America. E1, E2 is a treaty status visa where there are more than 33 countries that have that treaty with America. E1 is substantial trade, E2 is investment. And depends on the country, the definition is substantial, marginality. What is substantial? What's marginality? Substantial means that it should be about, how do you explain? It's because I've been doing it for 45 years, so we sort of know how you practice. So there are two ways to do it. You either apply for the visa overseas in the American embassy, which means that you have to go on the web, the USDOS web, and put in all the E2 questions or E1 questions on both. E2 is more for essential workers and investment. So for example, I'm a Japanese at one time did a lot of e-visa on those restaurants, like they'll open like 100 restaurants and hire the Japanese chef from Japan to America or from Canada to America. Those are all E2s. So the main owner in register E2 company, the chefs and the executives, they can come as an E2 essential worker. That's an E2 visa. The wives can do an E2 visa, but E2 can also work. Just like the L2 visa, you can work, but the children cannot work. Only the spouse could, but not children under 21. And once they're over 21, they're no longer considered children. So that's E2 spouse. E1 is substantial trade. The spouse is also called E2. E2 can also apply for work permit for 1 year, 1 year. So in the meantime, E1 is substantial trade. So for example, recently we represented a very, very wealthy Venezuelan and his, is he from Venezuela? It could be from Argentina, I don't remember which, but it could. So in the meantime, the partner didn't want to come. And him being a minority owner, I could not do an E1, so I could not do an E2, so I did an E1, but it was difficult because I have to prove substantial trade. So what is substantial? So for example, I only have a $100,000 business globally. Substantial means that at least you have to have like 90%, 85%, 95%. That's back home in home country. That's very, very different from the E2 visa where you talk about investment. Investment applies to marginality. So for example, I'm a hotel owner. I bought a piece of land for like $1 million. I bought the goodwill for 300,000. I bought the business for 200,000. So I put in 1.5 million risk capital. Out of that, I have IOU from the owner, from the prior owner, because I couldn't borrow that much money from the bank. So for E2 visa, I have to make sure marginality. So I have to make sure if I come in from Canada, I need to own my home. I had to have high tax return. How much, if you don't report enough tax, where did you get your income to save for this investment? And also you have to have liquidity. So for example, I moved to America. I have 2 university kids. I have another young child that goes to private school. So you couldn't put all your money, your liquid cash into the business. Then how do you live? How do you buy your car? How do you buy your wife's her car? Stuff like that. So it's important to look at source of funds on E2, liquidity on E2, and cash flow. So for example, in my bank, I have 120,000. I put all $120,000 into my business. So how do you rent your house? How do you pay your internet bills? How do you buy your kids the cell phone and the iPhones? And how do you rent a car, lease a car? So these are, the immigration would ask these questions, either at the border or in the American embassy. So for third country nationals who does E2, they're tougher aside from general Canadian, which I think is not fair, but it is what it is. I hope you understand. My name is Margaret Wong, and I'm a private practice immigration lawyer. My question today is, My company have a branch, and actually this is a real question, it's from one of my clients. I got a call from my Canadian friend, and my Canadian friend said, Margaret, thank you so much for getting me at one time American citizenship, but I moved back to Canada, so now I'm dual citizen. But I really want to come back and start another business to grow my business. I have a Canadian business. So should I do a L1 or should I do a E1 or should I do a E2? That's a very, very good question. Number one, it shows the sophistication of this business owner. Number two is E2 requires investment in America or substantial trade in Canada. L1 requires a branch office. So you can either do a father, you can do a mother, and siblings, which is on the side. So you can have company A, which is Canadian company, and B, which is a sibling owned by the same Canadian or American citizen. Or you can have affiliates, or you can have parent-child. But the most important thing on the E status, and also actually on the L status and E status, you need that control. You can have 50% ownership, but someone have to have control. So my advice is always do 51%. So either the workers they send from the Canadian side down to America is to manage the American side, which you can do an L1A or do an essential worker. But L1A is the same thing actually, because you have to work for the parent company for more than a year. So parent company more than a year, you come down with your family. They can go to school, they can go to private school, public school, no problem, because L2 spouse can work, L2 children cannot work, but that's okay, they're going to school. So in the meantime, you can get them green card if they're L1A specific and they are executive and managerial, you can go straight to an EB13 green card. Why is that important? It is very important because that Canadian citizen could have been born in India. L1A means they stop the EB2 and EB3 wait, which is like 9 years or 10 years, and L1A wait is only 1 year. That's why if you look at the quota, and that's my work in progress, because I always look at quota. China, India, the two worst quota places. Now even EB1 is closed. So you need to look at the quota, especially where they're born, not their nationality. It could be someone born in India, became a Hong Kong subject, but became a British citizen and became a Canadian citizen. Actually, it's a real case. So even though they're Canadian citizen, they can do E visa, they can do L visa, they can do TN visa, but they are still born in India, which is a 9-year wait. So that's very important when it comes to green card, especially if the kids are like by then 21 or 19, then you have to make a decision. If the kids are born in Canada, no problem. You get a green card 9 months to 1.5 years on the L or EB13, but if they're born in India, you miss that birthday. Today, I need to talk about how do I explain a J1 exchange. Anytime you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, T, S, U, V. V is the last one. Anytime you have alphabets in there, it's what we call non-immigrant visa. So I always teach I hate this, I love to say kids, but I should not say that. I should say law students. We always talk about parallel track. What's my non-immigrant visa status and what's my immigrant visa status? So J1, because it's an alphabet, is a non-immigrant visa status. J1 really started as a cultural program years and years ago. Nowadays, we have au pair J1, we have trainee J1, we have international something something J1. So if you Google, under Google, just say show me J1 programs or ask Alexia or something. They'll come up with all the J1 programs. Immigration Lawyers Association Foundation have one, and different J1 programs charge a certain amount. If you get into a J1, you don't really need a lawyer. In the olden days, not that old, but it used to be IAP 66, the pink form, and USDOS, US Department of State controls J1 programs. But the approval of the visa comes through Homeland Security. In the olden days, it's DOJ, it's Department of Justice. Nowadays, it's Homeland Security, all right? But J1 is totally controlled by US State Department. It started as an exchange program, like Voice of America. Those were all J's, but it's a cultural exchange. It really started in the communist era where Americans wanted the communists. I mean, the other countries to hear our voices, American voices, songs, um, stuff like that. That's how a lot of we have a lot of these foreign ladies marrying these soldiers. It's all through these J programs. I mean, um, but anyway, so J program is also a working program. If you come to America on a J, you will get a social security number, but it's a duration of stay. Duration of stay means that it's good as long as you're on the J1 program. So on the new one is called the old one is the new one is called DS 2019. It's white. The old one is pink. The 66 form is pink. The new one is 2019. If you look at the top right hand corner, like if this is a J program, you see the P number here. This controls what program. If you're au pair, if you're Cedar Point J, you're Sheraton Hotel J, it's all here. Here they'll say who sponsored it, like Cleveland State University have a J, they'll say from Cleveland State University. Down here, they'll have a place, are you subject or non-subject? And that's very important. There are two types of J visas. Number one is a subject J, number two is non-subject. All ECFMG Js are subject, all the medical doctors are subject. All, I shouldn't say all, 95% of PRC, the mainland China people, they're all subject. In the olden days, before Tiananmen Square, before Mao Zedong, in 1972, 78, Nixon went to Henry Kissinger, and Nixon started Chinese China, the whole trade issue with Zhou Enlai. But J1, all the Chinese, I should say all, a lot of Chinese came from Xiamen Daxue, Beida. Those are awesome, awesome. Like from Russia, for the Berlin Wall, they come to, but they didn't come on J's, they come on tourist visa, and they all got green cards because those are awesome, awesome people. So that's how the J program progressed to now. But J gives you a working visa. Some J's are only good for 2 months duration of stay, 3 months duration of stay, 1.5 years duration of stay. But the good news is you could work on a J, but more and more in the past 10, 15 years, J is becoming very restrictive. There was a time you can work really anywhere. It's not, I mean, it's gray area, but it's not really that much illegal. Now it's considered undocumented if, like, I'm on a Cleveland Clinic J, but I moonlight in another hospital. That's considered out of status. That's not good. My topic now is, can I enroll in school in any of these visas? Actually, that's a very good question. Remember earlier I told you any non-immigrant visa, you have an alphabet, A, B, C, D, F, G. So can I go to school on any of these visas? Certain visa you could, like an F visa is a foreign student advisor visa, is a foreign student visa. So of course you can enroll in school, full-time course of study. If you're on a tourist visa, it's always better not to go because actually you should not go. But if you go, only go to non-accredited, non-degreed, you can go take an English course in a library. That's okay. But even lately, F1 is also becoming restrictive. So the topic is alternative to H1. H1 is a working visa. If you enroll in school, so if I have an H-1B, can I go to school at night? Absolutely. Because as long as I work that 35 or 40 hours age, I can still go to school. That's not a problem. My topic is, can I change jobs or employers or bosses or campuses on any of these programs? The answer is yes and no. Why? Because H-1B is location specific, employer specific, job specific, duty specific. So as long as it's the same specific, same federal ID, you're okay. So what happens if tomorrow my boss's business is sold to his brother? Everything remains the same except ownership. Then you don't need to do an amended H1. What happens if tomorrow my boss's sold to a new entity, is a merger and a different federal ID number? No, you have to do an amended or H1B change because it's a different employer, even though relationship, everything remains the same, job description, job salary remains the same, location remains the same. What happens if tomorrow my employer wants me to go to another location for 10 days, 15 days, another location for 20 days? Can I do that? The answer is you still have to amend your H1 with new LCA. What is an LCA? Is a labor certification attestation to show where I'm working in that specific locations for that 15 days. All right. Or ask, just ask, because we try to really answer your questions. Sometimes we couldn't answer every single questions, but we do whatever we can, and we'll teach each other how to do better.